Hi, Debbie.
Hi.
Good afternoon, John.
Hi.
So folks are just starting to get on because Audra was in the middle of a conversation and there she is.
Sorry.
She
Hi,
suddenly
everyone.
realized that she hadn't opened the meeting yet. So,
And I think I've got everyone admitted, but I still see people joining, so I'll just keep making sure everybody can get in. And thank you everyone for joining us today.
Terry, how are you?
I'm okay, Murray. How are you?
I'm getting by, my friend. I'm getting by. So
Glad.
I just talked to Britt yesterday or the day before. I don't know if we got scheduled for our celebration of life for Harmony.
Awesome. Okay.
So we're going to work with her on getting one specifically for your folks at a different.
All right. You look like you got a little haircut.
Okay, I won't.
No,
Well, maybe since the last time I saw you.
it's been a while. Yeah. Thank you. Yeah. Well, you look good, so I'm glad. It's nice to see your face.
Thank you. Well, I'm getting by. You know, it's been a tough couple of months, and
Yeah.
we're working through it. So
Good.
Audra, do you know how many folks we're supposed to have?
We had 43 register, so it looks like we're still waiting for a few more to get on.
Okay. So I'm just going to sit here till you're ready to go.
Okay.
I can hit mute.
Okay, it looks like just a few more popping on, Murray, but if you want to go ahead and get started, we can go ahead and get started.
Sure.
No.
So you doing anything, Audra, before we jump in, or?
No, just thank everyone for joining us, and we have another CEU scheduled next month, so we'll be sending information out probably tomorrow sometime or by next week. And hopefully everyone already knows Murray Flagg. He's director of our spiritual care, and he writes our CEUs and presents them for us, and we're super lucky to have him. If there's anything,
You've shared what everybody needs to do to get their CEU certificate.
so if everybody I can see everyone's names here, but they're not necessarily linked to your email. So if in the chat box, you can put your name and email of how you want your name on your certificate and where you would like me to email it, that would be very helpful.
All right. So I want to say welcome to all of you. For those of you that have been online with me for presentations, you know that I prefer you to ask your questions as time comes up rather than trying to save them to the very end. And then you ask me and I don't necessarily remember exactly where I was on your question. So please, if you have a question, unmute and ask it. You will not mess me up. I know for some people that totally messes their flow up, but I don't have a problem with that. So please just let me know if you have a question at time we're doing it. So today we are talking about inclusion, diversity, and equity. And so let me get my screen up here. Oh, Audrey, you have to give me permission to share my screen because you're the host.
Oh, you know what? Let me make you. I'm making you a host, Marie, so that you're able to.
Yeah, I should be okay now. Great,
Yep.
thank you. Still not getting up with my, oh, there we go. Okay, we're back up here. Let me get to the right place. So today we are talking about diversity, inclusion, and equity, which equals belonging. So for the longest time, we've talked about inclusion and diversity. So today, one of the first things we're going to do is we're going to look at the difference between those, and then we're going to bring in equity, which is a whole nother layer and a whole nother page to open up for our communities and for ourselves. As the screen says, we live in a polyglot of cultures, ethnicities, faiths, genders, worldviews, which often result in dissension, exclusion, discrimination, both in the community and the workplace. Because there is such a diversity of who we are, what we are, how we view things, we often end up with separation rather than. So what do we want to, how do we address the very real issue, these powerful issues that when I look at the world, I see things one way. When Audra looks at the world, she sees it another way. When Terry looks at the world, she may or may not see it the same as either one of us. We come from different backgrounds. We come from different understandings. So how do we address these real powerful issues so that we have justice and understanding which lead to harmony and peace, and which for a company, for a group, even for a family, leads to productivity and health? Most often the proposal is that we become a diverse company, group, or community. But is diversity based in justice or tolerance? Anybody want to answer that for me? Is diversity based in justice or intolerance? Nobody's going to answer, so I'll have to answer for myself. It's not based in justice. And there are major differences between diversity and inclusion. Diversity emphasizes the differences and the demographic composition of groups, organizations, and communities. So diversity, by its very nature, says we're focused on what makes us different. Now, that's a good thing, and it can be a negative thing. Inclusion focuses on employees, individuals, and their involvement and ways to increase the participation of all and to leverage the powerful effects of diversity. Get that? There's two differences here. We want diversity because diversity brings in different worldviews, brings in different talents, different abilities. Different. Yes.
How are you?
I'm okay. How are you?
Hi, I'm okay too. Thank you.
Somebody has their microphone on
I'm
and
in
it's at
a
it.
Zoom meeting. Something like Zoom meeting.
Somebody is on needs to mic them,
Zoom.
mute their.
Zoom. It's like online meeting.
Sorry, folks. The individual who is talking to somebody else and has their microphone on, can you mute yourself? Or Audrey, you can go in and
No,
mute.
she's talking right now. I don't want to hear about it.
It's the person who's got it on is Hepsi
No,
on
that's
jury.
manager's license through state.
Pepsi, can you mute your microphone?
Oh, insurance.
There we go. Thank you.
Insurance?
All right. So we want this. No, somebody still has their microphone up.
Pepsi, can you please mute your microphone?
Yes,
Pepsi.
in a minute. I'm
Hey.
trying to figure it out.
Okay, on the very bottom of your screen, you'll see the video and you'll see the mute microphone right next to it. Okay, so we want to see this diversity. We want to bring these things in.
But inclusion focuses on not just that we're bringing people into difference, but we want to leverage their difference, their diversity. We want to include them so that how they see the world and how they understand comes together and meshes with everybody else's in the group. Now, equity is this powerful one that we don't often talk about. It promotes justice, impartiality, and fairness in all procedures, as well as the distribution of resources by institutions and systems. Now, that's a big difference. You see, we bring diverse peoples together. We want to include them. But the next step is making sure that they are treated impartially, they're treated with justice, treated fairly, and that they have access to the resources at a level with everyone else. Does that make sense? Hopefully you're tracking with me. So it's important that we track this and we see that so that we can have a true community, whether it's work, whether it's family, whether it's in society, whether it's a church group, fellowship, whatever. We're bringing everybody to the table. And everybody coming to the table has a voice, they have input, they are respected, they are treated, and they are allowed to be a part of the whole. So when we look at this concept of exclusion and inclusion based on uniqueness, so belonging, when we look at diversity, it's a differentiation of an outsider. It's okay to be different, but the minority feels that they're alienated and stereotyped. So we can often have people there, but so one of the things when I used to do consulting, I'd go in and I'd say, do you have a diverse organization? They'd say, oh, yes, we have a diverse organization. 45% of our company are women. And I'd say, that's great. How many of them are in the boardroom? How many of them are managers? And you know what? The majority of them were frontline employees that did not have any input into the decision-making, the policies, the oversight of the company. So true diversity doesn't mean that you have these people that are at one level only. Whereas inclusion, the insider and the outsider it's okay to be different. It's okay to be different. Uniqueness, exclusion of the outsider, and they need to fit in only to be accepted if you look, talk, and think like me. Many organizations, yes, you can be different ethnicity and that, but you have to look like me. You have to dress like me. Many of you will remember that IBM has been called Big Blue for many years. And it used to be that everybody had to wear a white shirt and a blue tie. That was a requirement. Everybody dressed exactly alike. They had to look alike. Walt Disney and Disneyland for years, as long as Walt Disney was alive, no one was allowed to be in the upfront part of Disneyland unless they were clean shaven if they were a man. They had to be completely clean shaven. Walt could wear a mustache, but nobody else who was the face of Disneyland could wear facial hair. Because you had to look like his perception that he was creating of Main Street America. Now, where we're talking inclusion, it's an assimilation, a blending. The minority feels no need to conform or to look, talk, and think like me. See the big difference? I can have people come into my community, but if they don't look like me, they don't dress like me, they don't think like me, they're really not in. But if I allow for that difference, if I allow the person to be who they are within the boundaries of what we do for work and those sort of things. So an example, you probably can't see, I wear an earring. There are companies where a man wearing an earring would be excluded, would not really be accepted. That's not inclusion. It can be unique, it can be diversity that we allow that, but you're not included because you don't look like me, because men are supposed to have non-pierced earlobes. Questions? So here is a model that's created by Paul Herbert. And first of all, let me explain that the cross in the middle is because Herbert is a teacher at a university, a faith-based university. And so and this is his logo, which I don't have permission to change, but that's why it's there. This is a centered set. And a centered set, everything points to one place. This one that I just brought up is a bounded set where you have those that are in and those that are out. So in the left, we find an inclusive model where all are in and headed in the same goal. Everybody's input is there. In the right, we find a set for those who are in and those who are out. Tracking with me? Unless I hear somebody say, I have a couple of people up, so you're shaking your head. Thank you. And can you guess which of these is inclusive? I don't think it takes much of a guess, does it? To guess who's inclusive. Yeah. Now you're a part of us. You're a part of us. Oh, by the way, you don't dress properly, so you're on the outside. The truth is, yes, but we've got those of us on the inside that are acceptable and look and sound like, but you're really not on the in. So a climate of inclusion exists when people of all social identity groups have an opportunity to be present. Let me say that again. When people of all social identity groups have an opportunity to be present, you're welcome here. You can be who you are. You have a voice that's heard and appreciated. And when we teach conflict management, we deal with conflict management. We talk about there are three things that make conflicts worse. The need to be right, the need for others to see us as we see ourselves, and the third is the need to have a voice. To have a voice. And in an inclusive environment, people get to be heard and it's appreciated. Now, that doesn't mean that everything they say we accept and turn into policy, but we hear them when they bring up an issue, when they make a suggestion. It may not work, but we hear them and they know they have a right to speak, that their voice is appreciated. They are engaged, everyone is engaged in core activities on behalf of the collective. See, in many organizations where we have diverse groups, but you're really not involved in the core issues. The core issues, and on behalf of the whole, you do your little segment, whatever it is, off on this side, but you're really not incorporated into it. Inclusive organizations, communities are ones in which the diversity of knowledge and perspectives that members of different groups bring to the group have shaped its strategy, its work, its management, and its operations. So think about the organization you work in. And if you say you have a diverse organization, is the diverse knowledge that everybody brings incorporated? Is it heard? That perspective, that way of seeing things, that worldview of different groups, are we listening to it and helping us to plan our strategy and in how we do our work? In the management of our operations and our people. This is the environment where inclusion happens, where people feel that they aren't just a cog, but they're really appreciated and the way they see and understand it. The amazing thing is that person who sees things differently, if we're listening to them and we're incorporating them, not only do they feel good, it's amazing the things they might help us to see that can improve our productivity, improve our organization. So I want to stop for a second. Anybody have a question or a comment, please unmute and share with us.
So, Murray,
Yes.
my question is, how do you encourage people who don't normally speak up to speak up?
You ask their opinion. I mean, as simple as that, Terry. It really is simple as that. You ask them. Now, you may not do that always in a group because they may be a very shy type of person, but you maybe meet them, sit down and have a conversation with them and say, Bob, tell me, well, how do you think we're doing? How do you see our company in relationship to you? We encourage them by giving them a chance to express themselves and then make sure that they see it's used. When my wife was at Fuller Seminary, They had this big thing where they wanted students and faculty to give their opinion. So they went through a year of bringing people together and listening to them and everything else. At the end of the year, you know how many things got changed or incorporated?
None of them.
None of them.
Yeah.
So the next year when they invited everybody to come, guess what? Nobody came. And they couldn't figure out why nobody came. And my wife said, why don't you invite my husband to come and have a conversation with you? So I sat with the president, and I sat with the dean, and I said, well, I can tell you without even having to think about it. You never got back to your people to talk about what they shared with you or why you didn't incorporate it or how you were involving it. So the other thing that is beyond that is important with that is that we somehow make sure they know that we heard them. So if you invite the person and you have the conversation with them, then you have the dialogue. It says, you know, that's a really great thing. But in 1923, we tried that same thing and it didn't work. And the person says, well, it's 2023. You say, yeah, you know, that's a good thing. We need to look at that. But you know what? I'm going to get back to you with that when we finish our analysis. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Because one of the reasons that many people don't speak up is because they don't think anybody really cares about their opinion. Or they might be afraid they get stuck with the task. And that's a whole nother subject.
Like you.
You know, there are times
She
we want to
spoke
keep our
out, I
mouths.
got stuck with it.
Yeah. So, you know, there is that as well, but hopefully, you know, we're there. Any other questions, comments? All right. So a climate of inclusion is characterized by fairness. Now, what does fairness mean? Fairness means we treat people across the board. When I used to teach undergrads, which ended very quickly, and I get to move to teaching graduates and doctoral people, I used to say to them, do you want me to grade this class justly or fairly? And they go, oh, we want fairness. And I said, good, everybody gets a C. And they'd say, what are you talking about? I said, fairness means everybody is treated exactly the same. Justice means it's according to your merit. They said, no, we want justice then. I knew that would be the answer, but I was trying to make a point. But we treat everybody fairly. We have open communication, and this is part of the thing that Terry was just asking, we're talking about. We have open communication. We're sharing with you. Now, that doesn't mean we're sharing every detail to every level. It's because there are things that should be kept at a management and leadership level and things that are, but the communication is open. Folks understand. And open communication means we're listening. See, all too often, the folks in our organization that are not at management and director level and that feel like they don't have real communication. That means we have to sit and actually talk, and we have to share, and we have to listen and make sure that in our listening, we're reacting. So that we make sure that what I hear you saying is what you're really saying. Transparent promotion and development. So why did Bob get the job and I didn't? Now, that doesn't mean we're sharing all of our HR things, but making sure that people understand that our promotions are based, this is what our promotions are based on. This is how we get it. This is what we're doing to develop people across the board. So it doesn't look like that guys who look like me get all the promotion and get to go to all the conferences and all the development things, and people who look like Terry don't. Discrimination and harassment tend to be very low. In true climates of inclusion, harassment and discrimination tend to be very low. That doesn't mean that they don't exist. We don't want to fool ourselves, but they're very low. And when they crop up, guess what happens? They get dealt with. They get dealt with, and they get dealt with fairly and across the board so that people understand. Any other questions, comments? So when we then look at values of knowledge, skills found necessary for creating inclusion. So the value of humility, the knowledge is self-awareness. A self-awareness of the organization, of the leaders, of the managers, of the people in it, being really aware of myself. So if we were sitting in the room, I would ask you, how many of you are not prejudiced? And guess what? Hopefully everybody's hands would stay down. Because we all have prejudice, prejudgment. But that doesn't mean we're controlled by it. That doesn't mean we discriminate because of it. But we're self-aware. If I'm aware that people with blue eyes cause me to be uncomfortable, if I'm aware of that, I then can take control of it. If I'm aware that our organization has tended to promote only people with degrees from Harvard, if I'm aware of that, then I can deal with it. Now, the skill that goes with humility is active listening. And I'm sure that if not all, everybody here has had the thing of active listening. Active listening means you focus. There is a statement that is made by a dean of psychology at Fuller Seminary who said, the feeling of being truly listened to is so akin to being loved that most people can't tell the difference. Where you're really actively focusing, listening, and seeking information, seeking that for folks to listen to. Also, listening, if you're the boss, you listen as you walk down the hall. Because you can tell by the sounds, by what you hear as you're walking around, that you're actively hear what's going on in the organization. Then the value of acceptance of differences, building healthy coalitions. That's the knowledge, building a healthy coalition. I don't want in an organization everybody who thinks exactly the same way as I do, acts exactly the same way as I do, sees the world exactly the same way as I do, because then what do I need them for? And empathy, feeling, reaching out to feel what people feel. Openness to new ideas, an awareness of relevant customs and laws. I'm a dinosaur. I tell people I'm an analog person in a viral world, right? They will tell you here at Harmony that if we're doing things, it's like give Murray a hard copy because he doesn't want to read it on a screen. Everybody else may be working from their screens. I need my pen and paper. But I know that viral thing is the way we're going. So I try to be there. Be aware of customs that have changed in our community, in our place, and the laws that are changing, things that are going on. And then the skill is self-monitoring to make sure that it looks like it. So in my case, I know I'm an analog person. I still like paper and I still like my pen. But I know that that can be a limitation. So I work at trying to deal with those and be aware of it. Which leads us to flexibility. Having a macro point of view rather than a micro point of view, seeing the big picture, seeing how our company, how we fit, see how everyone in us fits rather than just my one little view. And then appropriate communication, making sure that our communication is clear, that it's appropriate, that it's not tinged with firecracker words, or it's not tinged with hidden sarcasm, those sort of things, but it is appropriate communication for what we're doing and who we are. And then tact. You know, some people say, well, I just live out there. I just live boldly true out there. Well, that can be difficult. You need to know when to say it nicely. And you need to know sometimes when you need to just be quiet. And to approach things with tact. And work on an ability to relate. When teaching diversity, I often say to people, I will never know what it means to be a woman. I will never know what it means to be a person of color. But I can relate to them by listening, by being aware, and by understanding that there is a different perception and that perception is valuable and vital. Questions, comments, thoughts about any of this? Okay, I must be doing a brilliant job or else you've all gone to sleep. So if you want to change the community culture, Remember, it takes at least 3 years to change culture. This is an important thing that many people don't realize. Well, we're going to change. We're going to bring our culture. We're going to reshape our culture. Great, wonderful. Understand it's going to take you 3 years. It's going to take you a year to talk about it. It'll take you a year to move it in and teach it and move it, and take you a year for it to finally come to fruition. We don't change culture overnight because culture is embedded within us. It's embedded within an organization. But where we want to, we can change it, but it takes time and it takes effort and it takes conscientious work towards reaching for it. So the bigger issue that we come to is equity. This is the forgotten one that's forgotten so often. We talk about diversity, we talk about inclusion for a long time, but now we're talking more and more about equity. Equity requires a commitment to working to actively change and respond to bias, harassment, and discrimination, because they all exist. And bias is the one that we don't talk about. We all have biases, things that we like, things we tend towards, ways of operation that we like, and being aware of it. Harassment, as we know, takes so many forms. It takes so many forms. And discrimination. Equity means providing equal opportunity for all persons with no discrimination for any reason or view. Let me say it again. Equity is an opportunity for all persons with no discrimination for any reason or view. We don't discriminate, and we don't discriminate because your view is different than the rest of ours. You get the equal opportunity based upon merit, based upon all of these things. And this includes that we don't tolerate, we don't allow for this discrimination of race, color, national origin, age, marital status, sex, sexual orientation, gender identity, gender expression, disability, religion, height, weight, or veteran or non-veteran status. I want you to look at that for a minute. You see, all these things exist. And with equity, we're saying you don't get a better read in this company. You don't get more access. You don't get more equipment because you're a veteran than somebody who's a non-veteran. We don't treat you differently because you weigh 350 pounds than the person who weighs 150 pounds. We don't treat you differently because you're 6'2" or 5'2". This little graphic down here, which is one that I really love, because you see the difference here. You got the apples and you got the trees, and everybody wants an apple, part of the apple tree. Everybody wants an apple. But you notice when you look down, they're all getting there, but they're getting there because there are platforms created to make them equal. See, the person who's 6'2" may not need any help to reach up and grab the apple, but the 5'2" person, in order to have a chance to get the apple, needs to have a box for them. So they have an equal opportunity. These last ones I really like. While diversity is where everyone's invited to the party. Diversity, everybody gets to come. We're having a block party, everybody gets to come. Inclusion means everybody gets to contribute to the playlist. Now that means whether you like rock, country, rap, whether you like jazz, everybody gets to contribute. But this is the one that makes it all come together. Equity means that everybody has the opportunity, the space, and the shoes to dance. Everybody has what they need to be able to fully participate. There's something else, and that's belonging. And that is where all those in the organization, the company, the group, community, fairly, truly believe they belong and are not just visitors. And one of the ways that you know that this is happening is you look at your turnover rate. If you have a really high turnover rate, now there are lots of reasons, but one of the big reasons is people feel like they don't belong. They don't belong. this little chart. So this is how we look at all four of these. So inclusion, thoughts, ideas, and perspectives of all individuals matter. And where it crosses with diversity, the dominant group or ideology is deferred to for decision-making, opportunities, and promotions. Where you're still not, you don't feel like you belong. And where it intersects with equity, oversaturation of similarity, homogeneous culture, and simplification points of view. Again, doesn't feel like you belong. Now with equity, you're constantly and consistently reorganizing and redistributing power. But where it crosses over with diversity, the cultural assimilation results in disagreement and lower retention. And diversity, multiple identities represented in an organization, and we've talked about that. But where they all come together, you have belonging, an organization that engages full potential. And this is the key. This is the thing to help you and help your leadership and help other people understand. Where we have full engagement of the potential of all of these diverse people, where they're all included, where we're giving them equal opportunity, we get to the full potential that they have for making our work, whatever it is, better and making it powerful and making it relevant and making it productive. Where innovation thrives and views, beliefs, and values are integrated. An organization that engages full potential of the individual. Where innovation thrives and views, beliefs, and values are integrated. I had a friend who created his company, and his company became very large. He's now retired, sold the company. But for years, he would have lunch with an employee, probably 3 days out of the 5 days of the work week. And these employees ranged throughout the entire organization. And his goal was to always have lunch with a new employee within 6 months of their coming to the company. And this was in a day where they had the executive dining room. And people would receive an invitation, a handwritten invitation from him to join him for lunch in the executive boardroom. And let me tell you, people who are janitors and custodians and office assistants and such, the mailroom, often felt they couldn't be true. But it was. And it would be a one-on-one time with that employee, listening to them, getting their ideas, their opinions, their views. And then he would have his leadership meeting where he would share the things that he was hearing. He was looking to fully integrate and to fully leverage the potential of this diversity, of this included body, and making sure that they felt that they belonged, that they just weren't along for the ride. So in an organization, this is what it looks like. We're accountable. It's a base to build our community on. The focus is on our purpose. It takes conscious effort. And when we put those all together, we have belonging. A feeling of being accepted as members of a group, valued and connected with the company. People tend to not leave companies that they feel value them and where they feel they really belong. Now it happens, they do, things come up, but it tends to be what keeps them there. So when we can create that environment where people believe that they are valued. They're valued not because they look and act like everybody else, but they're valued for who and what they are, for their perspective, for their understanding, and that their gifts and talents are welcomed and are incorporated, and that they are provided with the resources at a same level as though everyone else in the company to do what they need to do their job. Now, that doesn't mean that everybody gets exactly the same budget. It's not what I'm saying, but to do their job. The custodian needs the right tools of a good quality to keep the property up. The administrative assistant needs the right tools of a good same quality to do their job. The president needs, and I could go on, but you know what I'm talking about. So, questions? Please tell me somebody's got some questions, because I'm not that brilliant that somebody doesn't have a question.
I got a question, Marie, always, you know.
Yes, Terry, thank you.
So what's your advice on how to create and maintain a DEI committee in an organization?
So what you do is you look through your organizational chart, look through your employee pattern, and you say, this person comes from Louisiana. This person comes from Minnesota. Now, if you know anything about Louisiana and Minnesota, chances are their worldview and their culture are very different, right? This person is male, this person is female, this person identifies as a dual gender. So you begin bringing them together and you say, look, we want to be this. This is what we want. This is what we want. Tell me what you see. And have these conversations individually before you try to bring them together. So you're, go ahead.
Well, so we started a committee, and Jess here is she
I'm struggling.
she got volunteered to run it. And I think maybe what I'm hearing is that, so I didn't want to be involved and I didn't want leadership involved. But it sounds like from what you're saying, I need to be more involved and maybe engage people in like roundtables or different kinds of conversations to assist Jess with, you know, growing and blossoming this committee throughout the home.
Yeah. See, again, yeah, it includes the entire community. So one of the things that happens is we say, well, we're going to get leadership out of this because people won't tell us that you, again, it's engendering that thing to say, I hear you, I listen to you, and your opinion's welcome.
Okay.
And so you have to be a part of hearing this, and not just from one person, but from the community as well.
Okay.
And so it is relationship. It's building that relationship where they're aware that, hey, Terry really cares what I say. So that they're comfortable to say to you, not, you know, just blowing off, but Terry, why did we paint the whole place green? And then we have the open communication to say, well, we painted the whole place green because Billy Bob Schwarzkopf gave us 12,000 gallons of green paint.
That's right.
And they go, oh, well, that makes sense then. You know, I wish we could have a different color. Yeah, me too. So again, it's that open communication. Does that make sense?
Yes, thank you.
So yeah, so one of the things that happens when we're trying to do this, well, I'm going to get out of the way. Well, you can't get out of the way. You're the boss, and everybody knows it. But they can have meetings in that, but you need to be interacting as well.
Okay.
Because you set the tone. Because like I said, with Fuller Seminary, they had this old big thing and they were going to do everything and everybody's going to let, and nothing came out of it. Well, nothing came out of it because somebody with the authorities got to be there to say, yeah, we're going to try it. Or at least communicate back why we didn't try it.
Okay, thank you.
Oh, no, thank you. Other questions, comments? Okay, you see my contact information. One of the things for some of you, if you don't know, is it is Harmony's policy that we will come and we will do teachings for you, for your community, for your group throughout all of the Tucson and surrounding areas. And it's at no cost. If you are interested, you can get a hold of Audra or you can get a hold of me here at Harmony. We come and do training, we come and do assessments and all of those things. We have I think, Audra, at our latest count was about almost 30 trainings that are CEU approved that we're happy to do for you and do for others. So just contact us and let us
Correct.
know. And we will be glad to assist you in any way we can. And if you have a specific issue that you would like to have addressed in that, if you let us know, we will work on putting together a training, an insight for you that we will then submit to get CEUs for it as well, or we'll come and address it for your group if you don't need the CEUs. Any other questions, thoughts? Well, I hope it's been informative. I hope this has been helpful. If you need any of this information, if you contact me by email, I will be glad to communicate with you and share some of this material for you if you find it helpful. So with that, I will say peace, grace, and aloha to you. And Audra, I turn it back to you if there's anything you need.
Thank you.
Perfect. Thank you, Murray. Just making sure everybody put their emails and their names typed in here. I see a lot of you in here, but just want to double check before we log off that everybody has done that. Just want to make sure we send out your CEUs to the right place. Anybody else have any questions? Well, we look forward to seeing you all at the next CEU, and we hope to do these in person at some point. Does anybody have a preference of in person or doing them online? No. Okay, well, thank you, everyone. Have a great day.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Bye-bye now.